Hey, what's up again, YouTube world? It is your girl here, Dana Monet, here to recap your favorite show, Star's hit show, Power, Season 3, Episode 6, The Right Decision. Now, I skipped the intro of the song because it's so much to talk about in this episode, and I just need to get right into it. I mean, this episode may kind of rival episode 5 for being the best episode, but this episode, excellent. That's all I got to say about that. So without any further ado, let's just jump into it because I don't have time. Okay, so we start the episode off. Tommy is asleep in his car and Ghost finds him. He's like, you slept in your car all night? Tommy is messed up. He don't know what to do with himself. He is just like, oh my gosh, like I killed Holly. I didn't mean to kill Holly, but I wanted to kill Holly, but I didn't really mean it, but I did it anyway. He can't find his keys at first, and he's just being like extra clumsy. I'm like, Ghost, why don't you just break in like you did last night when you found him? But I digress. That's not necessary per se. He just can't even go into that loft. He just can't even look at it. So then we go to the Department of Justice, and they're discussing how to transport Lobos to DC. And the black guy, I don't know what his name is, sorry. I have to just call him the black guy. But he's like, we should be transporting him in an armored tank. And, Mike reminds them that, first of all, Lobos is supposed to be dead. Everybody's supposed to think he's dead except for us. So we can't, draw too much attention. And, the black guy is not for this. He's like, I need men on this that I can trust and yada, yada, yada. Mike is like, we need to draw less attention. We need to put him in a civilian car. And they're like, what in the world? A civilian car? And, but he'll have the GPS tracking device on him so we can track him, the entire way. And, Greg Knox is going to be on point on this. And they like, okay, we good with it. And, the task force is going to be monitoring Lobos the entire way, making sure that it goes off without a hitch. And as Angie is coming into the office, Angie and Greg kind of give each other, dirty looks. And after everybody leaves, Mike has like this nervous expression on his face. So back at Tommy's apartment, he's discussing with Ghost the plan to link up with Hugo's crew, who is, Hugo was one of Lobos's boys, to help Lobos to escape. When they escape, Tommy and Ghost going to kill Lobos. We know this. Tommy says, I hear you're living with Angela, because they're trying to basically establish an alibi. They have to have an alibi for that day. Ghost says, I can use Karen. And then Tommy says, you already got a side bitch on your side bitch? I thought that was so funny. I just had to quote that. Ghost says, no, Karen Bassett is an investor. And, she has this hotel. And I can say I'm staying there and have a meeting, yada, yada, yada. And he's like, Ghost says, Angela will believe me. And Tommy's like, are you really so sure? Because Ghost just thinks that he knows everything about everybody. And we'll learn later on in this episode that he definitely does not. Then there's a knock on the door, and it's Tasha. And Tasha is like, I've been calling, I've been looking for Holly. She's not answering the phone. We're supposed to be doing this bank stuff. Like, what is going on? And she's surprised to see Ghost there. And she's like, oh, so y'all buddy again? Like, y'all brothers now? So, she's a little bit surprised about that. And then, Ghost is like, I don't want to include her in this. And Tommy is like, we need her. She know what to do. Ghost, just shut your mouth. Just shut your mouth. You know what I mean? She saved your ass on a whole bunch of different levels. So just be quiet. Tommy's right about this in this instance. So now we're back at the club where Dean asks, how's Tariq? And Ghost kind of blows him off as he does everyone and says, he's fine. And Dean is like, 3 men, could have killed him last night. And, Ghost says, I thought I told you I no longer need your services. And Dean is like, well, I had a hunch and it paid off. And, Dean says, if it happens again, I'm going to have to go to the authorities. And Ghost says, it won't happen again. He said, don't follow him again. And then he basically dismisses Dean and goes over and talks to Karen Bissett because he has no more business with Dean. So he thinks. Moving right along. Tommy, Ghost, and Tasha are at Tasha's apartment, and they say they gotta ditch the phones because they're gonna be able to trace the phones and everything like that. And Ghost tells Tasha, Holly can't be in on his alibi because they're gonna use Kate, Tommy's mom, instead. And Tasha's like, why Holly can't be in on an alibi? Of course, she doesn't know that she's dead yet. And Tasha kind of, spills the beans to Ghost about the baby. And Tommy still didn't know, and Ghost definitely didn't know, and Ghost ain't gonna tell Tommy about this baby. So I don't know when Tommy is gonna find out about this baby. I mean, obviously the baby is dead because Holly is dead, but at some point he needs to find out, right? Tasha's gonna tell him, right? And as Ghost leaves, he gives Tasha a kiss on the cheek, and I was like, ew. I was like, slap him, like, for real. I was like, I don't want nothing to do with you. Ooh. Ghost in this episode really I know a lot of people hate Ghost, and I always try to give him the benefit of the doubt, but in this episode, he was working my nerves. And Ghost leaves, and Tasha is like, you leaving me with the mess, as usual. Tommy over there yelling, you got some food in here. I'm like, always leaving her with the mess. That is exactly correct. So we're back at Angela's apartment, and Ghost tells Angie, he's staying at one of Karen Bassett's properties. And this is to establish an alibi, for her. So that's where she'll think that he is. And, she's like, staying at a hotel. He's like, it's for business purposes. I'm going to have a meeting with her and discuss, some possible ventures, yada, yada, yada. And he sells Angie this dream about traveling around the world and going all these different places. And, she gets all horny and stuff, and she unzips her skirt. And then they have sex on the dining room table because, she is happy to have sex with him. After he delivered her those separation papers, she is like, she is with it. Moving right along to Tasha and Ghost showing up at the hotel. It's a nice hotel. I didn't think it's like on the outskirts of New York. I thought it was going to be like in the city. So it's really nice. And they have to act like husband and wife. Like they're not already, but they haven't really done the whole husband and wife thing for a minute. But they know how to, they know how to put on a show. They know how to save face. So Tommy's underground somewhere with Hugo and some other dude talking about the Lobos escape plan, and they're telling him where, they're most vulnerable and where they, can get them. And back at the Department of Justice, Greg is preparing and putting Lobos into the car, and he says, he uses walkie-talkie, tells Mike Lobos is on the move, and Mike is like, he tells the rest of the task force Lobos is on the move, and then he like low-key texts Hugo on his little burner phone and like on the move so that he knows, okay, they're on the move, they're on the move. So basically they're riding together at the same time. At the same damn time. And next we are back in the hotel, and Tasha's in the hotel. She had her robe on, and she's just kind of basking in the life by herself because Ghost is off about to kill somebody. And, Karen Bissett knocks on the door, and, she's basically covering for Ghost, says that he's in the shower. And then they, deliver this, tray of all this good food. And, she takes advantage of the good food. Like I would take advantage of the good food, and she goes to turn the shower off because, Ghost ain't really there. You know what I mean? So Tasha, we know that Tasha is a down bitch, even though Ghost has basically, he's just treated her like shit. She still is down for him in a way, and it's in terms of doing this. So I guess essentially, him killing Lobos is something that is beneficial to her too. So she has to kind of find the benefit for her in order to do this, but she's in it. Next, Tommy and oh boy, I never caught the other guy's name, but they're waiting for the right time, to stop the car. They're like in the bushes somewhere. So Greg is in the car with Lobos, and Lobos and his gay self is flirting with him, putting his leg up on Greg and like, can you massage my calves? Lobos is hilarious. And Lobos is like, I pity you. And Greg says, I pity you. And, Greg, brings up Ruiz and then James, and Lobos is like, I've never heard of them. I don't know who the hell you're talking about. Who is that? I don't know. And Tommy, puts something on the road that will cause them to stop and get a flat tire and everything like that. And once they hit that, Greg is like, there's a situation. And Lobos basically says, here's where I get off. You motherfuckers, like, peace out, deuces. And, shots start firing, people start shooting, killing people or whatever. Greg says, we need more backup. And then, Tommy, well, they don't know that it's Tommy because he has a mask on his face. But Tommy shoots Greg. And I'm like, oh, snap, is Greg dead? Because that's one of the predictions I had before season 3 even started. I was like, Greg gonna die. And, of course, he doesn't actually die. But Lobos is free. And Greg is, like, looking unconsciously and trying to see, who it is, trying to listen to voices. But he's, like, so out of it. He's just trying to see what little pieces he can put together. So next, Tommy is driving the getaway car with Lobos and Oh Boy in the car, and the other guy tells Lobos in Spanish, is like, how long do we need him? And Tommy is like, look, you need to talk to me in English, please. And he's like, I'm trying to ditch the eye in the sky, the helicopter, plane, whatever that's following them. And Oh Boy is not having it. He says, I'm about to call Hugo. And as soon as he picks up the phone, Ghost shoots him in the head. And then Tommy points a gun to Lobos. And, now Lobos knows that he's about to die. But Lobos really isn't, acting like somebody's about to die. He's just chilling. He's like, so you're going to kill me now? Like, okay. Like, Lobos is just in La La Land all the time. So then, Angie is in her office, and after that whole situation happens, I think that she feels a little suspicious and thinks that Ghost is a part of it in some kind of way. So she goes to text Ghost. At first she has a text saying there's been a situation, and then she's like, oh, let me change it. Let me just change it to something simple like I miss you or whatever it is that she texted him. But little does she know that Tasha is actually the one that's texting her back. And I was just looking at this screen. I was like, ah! And she is buying every single word of it. And she's like, I love you. I miss you. And Tasha is like, bitch, don't you got a job? Like, I was like dying laughing right there. But Tasha's having a good old time. She's just like, I'm just going to text this bitch. Like, whatever. I don't even care. And, Tasha goes into Ghost's bag and she actually sees the separation papers. And she is like, what the, like, come on now. And she's like, damn it, Ghost. And now we're back to Tommy and Ghost taking Lobos out in the middle of nowhere. I don't know where the hell they're taking him to. Then I realized that they're taking him to his grave. And I was thinking, I was like, why did they wait so long to shoot him? Because they wanted him to walk to his grave rather than them carrying him, because, that's just too much to do. Nobody feels like carrying him. I don't know how long they were walking for, but, that's practical. It's more practical. Okay, so Sax comes into Angie's office and she's saying how she's worried about Greg, and, he seems to think that she's really genuine about it. And then Greg, all of a sudden, he shows up. He's alive and he's okay. And he need to talk to somebody. He's like, look, Greg is like tripping. So next, Tommy and Ghost continue walking Lobos through the middle of nowhere, and Lobos starts talking about Angie and saying all inappropriate things, and Ghost gets his panties in a bunch and puts the gun to Lobos and stuff like that, and takes him into overdrive. And Lobos talks about how, he organized his own escape using, someone on the inside and everything like that. And Lobos says when his rat finds out that they're going to kill Lobos, then his rat is gonna come around and maybe kill Angie. And Ghost is like, oh my gosh. He's like, they're gonna kill Angie. Ghost is like, abort. And then Tommy says, no, we should have killed her a long time ago. And and I think a lot of people will agree with that. And Lobo starts talking about Holly, and then gets Tommy's panties in a bunch. And he be in his feelings too. And it's like, you talk about their women and they both get a little, you know what I'm saying. So Greg is back at the Department of Justice, and he's talking about how he knows the attack was an inside job. And Greg says, they were ready. They knew everything. They knew what time things were happening. They knew the route. They knew everything that was going on. And, Greg at first refuses the medical help, but they give it to him anyway because he has a bullet in his chest. And everyone's phone rings at the same time. And then Angie says, they found the getaway car and another body, which was Oh Boy, which I never got his name. Sorry, Oh Boy. And then she gives Greg like this kind of half-ass, I'm glad you're okay. Welcome back. So I don't know how genuine she felt. I mean, she probably did feel some type of way when she thought he died. Like, she has a heart, but that just seemed, that line was just like kind of like dismissive a little bit. And then Hugo calls Mike, and he's like, what the fuck are you calling me for? Like, why are you calling me? And Hugo tells Mike, Lobos didn't show up. Like, where's Lobos? I don't know where he is. So back in the field, Lobos says, he doesn't like his accommodations. He sees the grave and he's like, I don't like this. You know what I mean? And Lobos' phone rings. And they're like, at first they don't know whose phone it is. And Tommy thinks it's Ghost. And then they realize it's Lobos' phone. And Ghost is like, smash it, smash it, smash it. And then they're like, they can trace the phone or whatever. And it was Mike calling Lobos' phone. And Tommy and Ghost, they start arguing and everything like that. And that allows Lobos to run away. So Lobos tries to run. And they attempt to try to catch him. And they all in the woods, in the trees at night. And it's all dark and stuff. And I'm like worried for them and stuff like that. I'm like, and then they decide to split up. And I'm like, why are y'all splitting up? And then Lobos comes from behind Ghost and hits him with something like a brick or a rock or something like that. But Ghost kind of knocks him out. And Ghost wants to kill him right then and there. Like, forget the plan. I just want to kill him now. And Tommy doesn't think that's such a good idea. And, Ghost shoots him anyway. And, Tommy is like, I guess there's no negotiating this. And just like that, Lobos is dead. And that was one of my other predictions. I was like, Lobos is dying this season. That was one of the things that I predicted before this, season started, that Lobos would die. So Lobos is dead, y'all. Told you. Well, I didn't tell you on here. It's just something that I wrote down. But I knew that Lobos was going to die. I just had a feeling. So now we are back where, they change out of their murder clothes. They got this little like space. So now Ghost and Tommy are back in like their little bunker and they're changing out of their murder clothes. And, Tommy mentions to Ghost, you need to get rid of your nosy security guard. What you going to do about him? And Ghost says, I'm going to have to get rid of him. And, but I might need him too. You know what I'm saying? Because he did just kind of save his life. Ghost says, we're free now, Tommy. We're free. We're free from Lobos. We're free from the drug game. And Tommy really ain't trying to hear that. Tommy's like, I don't have nothing. I don't have no girl. I don't have no family. I don't whatever. And, Ghost says he's sorry about Holly. And Tommy is just like, and just walks out. So now we're back with Ghost back at the hotel. Tasha tells him that, Angie is sweating you. She has been texting you all day. And Ghost says, he looks at the text messages and he's like, that sounds just like me. And Tasha says, yeah, she remembers, I remember how you used to talk to me. Look, Tasha knows how many times your heart beats per minute. Tasha knows everything about you. Why does that surprise you that she knows how to text her and make it sound like you? That shouldn't be a surprise. You know what I'm saying? So, and Ghost is like, he wants to call Angie. Since, they don't usually go this long without talking. And, he has to cover his tracks and he doesn't want her to be suspicious. And Tasha's like, before you do that, I need to tell you, Big Mama told me that Tariq tried to run away. And when he came back, he, was talking back to Big Mama. And I'm feeling like next episode, we're going to see Big Mama. Big Mama is coming back in here because we kind of need Big Mama's presence. We need her. And I kind of want her to slap Ghost like she slapped Tasha last season. So I need that to happen, first of all. And he's like, that happened because I'm not there. And Tasha's like, no, that happened because I'm not there, because I'm trying to deal with this mess for you with killing Lobos or whatever. And, basically saying that even though Lobos is dead, they still got other problems. You still have a family you got to look after. You still got kids. Ghost kind of blows it off and says, Tariq will be fine. And I'm just like, Ghost, no, he's not. Tariq is going through some things right now. And like I said before, he needs guidance. He needs nurturing. Like I said last episode, he just needs a hug sometimes. He needs attention. He feels neglected. Stop blowing your damn son off, please. So Ghost calls Angie, and first thing she says is she misses him. She was reaching for the phone. She was like, whew, it's Ghost, it's Jamie. Ghost is talking to Angie with Tasha sitting right there. And Tasha is like, this nigga is really just calling this bitch like right in front of my face. And, Angie tells him that she loves him, and then Ghost says he loves her back, and Tasha is holding a wine glass, and I just feel like she needs to just spray that shit right on him. I was like, oh my gosh, like really? You could have at least gone into the bathroom, Ghost. Like seriously? Ugh. You know what I'm saying? I was just like, whatever. And then, she applauds his performance. She's like, bravo. She's like, so it's that easy to lie to somebody that you love? And, he's like, he says he's doing what needs to be done. And she's like, that's the same story all the time. You're doing what needs to be done. So she pulls the separation papers that she saw earlier out. And, she basically tells us something that we didn't know. Like, if he initiates the divorce, then she still gets half. And I'm like, Tasha, go for it now. What? You get half? Like, whatever. And, and she will, and I'm like, she's going to take that deal. And she reminds Ghost again, there are still problems, even with Lobos dead. Like, are you dumb? Are you stupid? She says, you think she's going to cover for you in this event? Like what do you think that she's going to do? She's going to lock you up. Ghost in his arrogant ass says that, she won't find out, unless you tell her, and you won't tell her because that would make you an accomplice. And I'm like, Ghost always trying to talk shit. He always trying to say something, man. I'm just like so freaking sick of Ghost. I just wish that she, just kick him in the balls or something. Like, I'm so like over this. And now, just as a quick little side note, I hope that she does proceed with the divorce based off of his initiation, gets with that divorce lawyer that she had last season. Like, he initiated this, I'm going to get half. And if the shit hits the fan, I'm testifying against his ass because he needs to learn his lesson. And now that I got half of his money, I can take care of his kids. I don't even fucking need him. I don't want her to go back to him. At first, I was predicting that they were going to have like another sexual encounter. Like, now I don't want her to give into that. I don't want her to do it. Just get yours and bounce. Like, that's how I feel at this point with Tasha. And if she does testify against him, she should get immunity. She's like, I'm going to get this deal and I'm going to get immunity so that I don't get in trouble for shit. Teach him. Okay, so she says she already signed, the papers because she is so done with his ass. I'm so done with him. Everybody's so done with Ghost. And Ghost feels he's keeping, the family safe. And one day she'll appreciate it. And he tries to get in bed with her. And she's like, hell no, you ain't getting in this bed with me. I don't care if this is a California king. Like, you ain't getting in this bed with me. So he gets all mad. And he throws a little 2-year-old hissy fit. Like, Ghost, you got some nerve being mad that you can't sleep in the bed with Tasha. Like, you got a side bitch and you done delivered her separation papers and you think you're going to sleep right next to her in the bed. Like, boy, bye. Like, I can't. I can't with Ghost. I'm done. So we see Tommy. He goes to Holly's grave site. And he goes there like it's like a regular grave with all of these other tombstones there. And he puts his grandmother's ring back there, on her little grave. And I'm thinking, Tommy, your fingerprints on the ring, like if somebody finds that and then they find her body, I don't know. I mean, you're in the system. So, I mean, I don't know about that. But whatever, Tommy doesn't think when he's emotional, and that's a shame. So we're back at the hotel, and it's morning, and he has his meeting with Karen and Karen's father or whatever. Tasha decides to leave early. She's like, I am not here for this. And they play the fake hubby and wife role really well, because at this point they just trying to save face. That's all they're trying to do. Neither of them just don't want to get in trouble at this point. So we're back at Department of Justice, and Greg is in Sack's office talking to him again about, the snake in the garden, like who is the rat in the Department of Justice. And Greg thinks it's Angie. And, Sack says, she was pretty broken up about, when she thought that you died. And, Sax says, she acted like a real human, like with real feelings. And Sax says, you may be able to get back in the Sack there. You might be able to get her back or something if she's in a vulnerable state or whatever the case may be. So now we go to the scene, in my opinion, was the best part of the episode, because I so didn't see this coming. I don't think anybody saw this coming. This was great. So back at the club in Ghost's office, the security guard, Dean, and I'm putting his name in quotes for a reason. You know why I'm putting his name in quotes, comes in to Ghost's office. Ghost says he no longer needs his services. Once again, Dean says in his experience, when you save the life of a man and his son, you want to keep them close. What's different about this situation? And Ghost says, I don't have to explain myself to you. And I'm thinking, Ghost, you and your entitled ass. And that just pisses Dean off, because I think that Dean was kind of on his side up until this. And he's like, you know what? I'm about to let my balls drop now, because this guy just doesn't get it. So he basically reveals himself. He says, with it, you finally killed Lobos. He does it with an accent. That was a horrible version of that accent. But Ghost is like, what did she say? He's looking all dumbfounded and everything. And, Dean starts speaking in another language which at first I think is Russian. I didn't look this up, but I don't know, what language Serbians speak, if they speak Serbian, or if that's just the nationality or whatever. So, help me out on that. I should have looked that up before I did this video. So, he says to his partner, guard the door. And his partner says he has a gun in the safe, and he goes to get the gun out of his safe, and they know the combination to his safe. What in the world? And he says, I know you, Jamie St. Patrick, and your father, your husband, you're an adulterer, you're a drug dealer. And he pulls out that little La Araña card. And this is the card that in the very first episode, the girl put, the girl who worked at Truth that got killed, put in Ghost's desk. And I was always thinking, all of these episodes, I was like, when is this going to come into play? They never do anything on the show for no reason. No one ever appears just for no reason. I was wondering when it was going to come into play, and it finally did. So I'm, just connecting the dots and everything like that. And before he says it, because the way he's talking, I'm like, is he associated with Vladimir? Is he associated with the Serb? And I'm like, that's Milan. Before he even says it, I was like, oh snap. We finally get to see Milan, because all throughout season 2, they were talking about Milan, cannibal Milan and everything like that. How they didn't want to work with him because he's crazy. He eats people and stuff like that. And this is Milan. He got a good ass cover being a security guard, because I thought he was CIA. I didn't know what he was. Crazy. So Milan, brings up the shipment that they stole last season. Tommy and them and Ruiz and them stole from him last season. And he says, you were so concerned with Lobos that you neglected me. It's very selfish of you. You owe me, Ghost. Basically saying you owe me. And he knows that his name is Ghost, street name is Ghost. He knows everything about Ghost at this point. And Milan says him and Tommy need to work for him. And Ghost is like, I'm out the game. I don't have any products. I don't have anything. Milan is basically telling him, you're going to need to figure it out, because if you don't want me to harm you and your kids and your precious Angela, you going to figure it out, homie. Ghost is looking like a sick puppy. He's like he just did not see this coming. I did not see this coming. Y'all, if y'all saw this coming, I don't even believe you if you saw this coming. Like, I seriously don't. So whatever, I don't know. But I have to admit that, I kind of put him like under the radar. Like, I didn't really know what to expect out of the security guard. Like, I didn't know what he was going to like bring to the table. But not in a million years did I think that he was Milan. Like, never, ever, ever, ever. So, he says, don't worry, you're safe for now. And I basically said, you cut the head off a snake, but a new one will grow in its place. So you kill Lobos, killed that snake, now you got a new one. And because he's like, nice to meet you, I'm Milan. I was like, get him, get Ghost. Yes, yes. Okay, so Ghost is telling Tommy the whole tea about Milan being his security guard the whole time or whatever. And he's like, I'm not prepared. And Tommy's like, I'm not prepared to work for another psychopath. We just killed one psychopath. Now we got to work for this psychopath. And Ghost says, he has no choice but to get back into hustling and everything like that. And Tommy says, you going to do this while you still living with Angela? You going to wake up next to her every day and lie to her every single day, all day, every day? Like, they don't lie to each other anyway, but he be lying, like for real lying. You know what I'm saying? And, if that's not even the worst part about it, Tommy says, he says that she's your weakness, which is the truth. And Holly was Tommy's weakness. And thank God Holly's gone, but Angie is definitely Ghost's weakness for sure. And, Ghost says Dean is professional. He knows, everything about him and everything like that. And Tommy says either, she locks you up or Milan gets a hold of her. He's like, if we get her, we can make sure that she doesn't suffer. Basically, if we kill her or whatever, which, Ghost ain't really going to let that happen. But if Milan gets her, Tommy says, I can't even believe I'm saying this, but if everything Vlad said about Milan was true, even I don't think Angela deserves that. And I was like, oh my God, he's going to cut her up and eat her. Oh, Jesus. Okay. So Tommy like has a little bit of a heart for Angela. Like, he doesn't want her to get cut up and eaten. He don't mind putting a bullet in her head, but he don't want her to get cut up and eaten. Like, that's kind of sick. Okay. So Ghost comes back home to Angie's apartment, and, she wants him to talk about, them flying all around the world. And he says, that won't happen. That won't happen. He says, he comes up with this reason why he can't be with Angela, and it involves Tariq and saying that he ran away. And, he's like, I got to make Tariq, my kids rather, my priority. And he says, he wanted to love you. He wanted the dream. He's like, do you love this me, or do you love the 15-year-old me? He says, do you trust your 15-year-old self to make decisions? And she says she trusts that, she loves him and everything like that. And everything I did for you, I did for us. You know what I mean? And she's basically like pleading with him, like, don't do this. Like, I gave up so much to be with you. Like, you dumb, like, please don't leave me. And, he says, it shouldn't be this hard. If it was meant to be for us to be together, it shouldn't be this hard. She wants the truth, because she thinks this whole thing about Tariq and that's the reason why they can't be together is bullshit, which, it is. And she wants the truth. And of course he doesn't tell her because they lie all the time. And, he's like, we can't be together. It's the right decision, which is the title of the episode. And he's like, goodbye, Angie Valdez. He says her whole government. And she is in there bawling. She is like, I am like, oh my God, she is like really messed up. And he's right outside the door and he's like holding back tears. He's like, and I'm like, I have to say that I am not an Angie and Ghost hater as much as some other people, although Ghost I think Ghost gets on my nerves more than Angie does, for real. Like, all of this is really Ghost's fault. But I felt that moment, like her emotion and her like crying, and she is like, even more so than last season when she found out that he was Ghost and she was crying in the bathroom stall. Like, I felt that because that was her thinking that they are really going to move on with this life, which we know is not actually going to really happen. But just in her mind in that moment, I was like, I felt for her, because even though it's coming, it's going to happen, that they're not going to be able to be together with him being a drug dealer and her being a federal prosecutor. It's just, I don't know. It was like, it was an emotional moment. I just didn't know that she would break down like that. Like, that really tore her up. So that was a great, great episode. I loved that episode. And the thing that I love about the episode the most was the unpredictability of it. I think that a lot of people who are power fanatics have been watching this show, including myself, and they've been making predictions, and people think that they know everything that's going to happen at every given moment. I did not see Dean being Milan. I did not see that coming. And I actually did think that Ghost would get back in the drug game by the end of the season, but I thought that he would do it by choice. I didn't think that he would do it by being forced. So, that was a complete curveball. Kudos to the writers for that, because they came out of nowhere. Just when you think that you know everything that's going to happen on this show, you have no idea, and you really do not know. So next week, there's a discussion about finding out who the mole is at the Department of Justice. And, Angie's like worried about getting the death penalty because they think that it's her. I don't know if they'll find out that it's Mike, but it is going to be a hot mess, and they are up in the ante each and every week. And I think with Power, although sometimes you can predict what's going to happen, it's not so much about you predicting what's going to happen. It's about how it happens. And I think that that's what makes the surprise element about Power so entertaining. It's about how things happen, not so much what happens. So I'm excited for next week. I don't know about y'all, but this episode had me on the edge of my seat. Like, whoo, Milan. I was like, oh my gosh. So tell me what you think. Like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you next week. Bye.